Welcome to Season 3 of Malevolent Autopsy. I'm your host, Queen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am so excited to be here with you all. Now, let me warn you, the show contains major spoilers for everything in Malevolent as of the day this episode is published, so if you're not caught up, I'm not liable. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to ask my lovely co-host, what part of Arthur's body are you betting on getting injured this week?
Howdy, hello, I'm Vol Control. I use he, him pronouns, and this week I'm betting Arthur's face gets injured. He's gonna walk into the dollmaker's house and just get, like, pocket sand thrown at him.
Pocket sand!
Pocket
The
sand!
dollmakers, but it's the Dark World pocket sand, so it's gonna be, like, acidic or something. Or it's gonna be, like...
Yeah, exactly. My first thought was pocket sand. I cannot tell you why. Just pocket sand on the brain, apparently. But yeah, to injure his face and not just his eyes, it would have to be like super sharp pocket sand, or yeah, like acidic, or like on fire.
What's the opposite
or
of
something.
sand? I guess I want to
Don't
say
put me on the
water, but
spot.
maybe pocket gravel.
Oh yeah, pocket ground. Well, moving on. Shall we review what happened this chapter?
Yes, please. If you would give me a recap, I would love you even more than I already do.
Aw. It was a short one, just 8.5 minutes long, just a regular old walk through a field of hair that has apparently been sewn in place and is bloody. Great. And there's scarecrows. Spooky, bloated, beaten scarecrows. But, hey, John did get his scarecrows in the Dark World. I know some people were hoping for that. I'm happy for you. They spot the dollmaker's abode and find it to be an inviting little cottage, like out of a fairy tale. How delightful. As they approach to knock at the door, John notices a sign written in elaborate script just in the nick of time. It says, "Fiends knock. Friends enter." John asks, well, are we friends or fiends? Well, chat, what are we thinking?
Such a spooky chapter.
It was a very, like, transitive chapter, like, getting kind of the lay of the land and, like, getting to the next bit, but Harlan really packed in a lot of fucking creepy, spooky imagery.
Yeah, for sure. Slate said the intrusive thought I had that I couldn't speak, but since Slate said it, I can say it now. Slate says trans chapter confirmed.
Trans chapter confirmed.
Every time you say when you start something with trans, I think you're about to like talk about a trans issue or like
related to trans things. Yeah, this chapter was really transcoded. Walking through a field of hair, the body horror. No, I'm just teasing.
So I would love to jump right into our carrot and stick because I also want to talk about some of the Booth John stuff, and your carrot and stick kind of give me a good segue into that. So what was let's start out with your carrot. What was your carrot?
So my carrot was a specific line: building a home in a battlefield without fear of what may come. It sounded like Arthur was quoting something, and I don't know, chat, do we know, was he quoting something? But it's a fucking banger line.
Yeah, I feel as though Harlan's little notebooks full of banger lines that he's been writing for the last 5 years have like finally started to make their appearances when he needs them the most. I think he's got to have had some of these cooking for a while, but you know what? He's such a improv genius, and he's so well spoken in his craft that I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of this is just on the spot poetry. But there are so many good lines.
Yeah, Seer in the chat says, I assumed it was normal Arthur poetry. Yeah, I mean, that was my first instinct. Like, it definitely sounds like something that Arthur would just pull out of thin air. But yeah, I thought that was a really cool line, and also it added to the sort of mythos that is building up around this meeting with the dollmaker and what kind of person or entity or like what their personality might be like or what their motivation might be like. So I really liked all the lines that sort of added to that growing lore.
Yeah, that was great. What was your stick?
Well, you and I wrote down the same stick at first. Which do you want me to talk about that one, or do you want to talk about Booth
Yeah.
John first?
Do, no, talk about that one first.
Okay, the one we both wrote down was fucking disgusting, describing the cottage as a tick buried in a scalp. John, why? Why?
So in our notes here, Vol wrote, I don't like how John described the cottage like a tick buried in a scalp with a little crying emoji. But then I wrote the exact quote, which was like a tick buried within the meaty flesh of a scalp. And then I wrote, John, why? You don't have to be like this, John. He really chooses to say the most disgusting thing possible about what he's saying.
But only sometimes. And no, I guess it's most times. It's just that
It's
Arthur.
most times.
But Arthur doesn't tell him to stop often enough.
He really doesn't. I feel like at this point, Arthur is either used to it or like a car crash in slow motion. He's just like horrified and unable to stop him before it gets really bad.
Yeah, I think the car crash is too far along before Arthur tries to pump the brakes.
Yeah, that was a chilling description. But what was your other
My other
stick?
stick. My other stick that came to mind was at the beginning of this episode when Booth John was reviewing our choice to hide the scar from last week. He says, "What have you risked by hiding the scar?" And I was like, "What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?"
So
Ugh.
if this is the first episode of Autopsy you're listening to when this episode goes live and you don't know what we're talking about, Booth John is what we affectionately deem the voice that opens up a chapter or closes a chapter with a choice in it. And he often presents our choices to us or recaps the choice or gives us some wording to help us understand the choice we're about to make in the poll. And there's some extra lore that you can listen to earlier episodes of Autopsy to find out about how this voice has changed throughout the seasons of Malevolent, and particularly in season 6, where definitely sounds very different and is speaking very differently
Yes.
than, seasons 1 through 5. I would say 1 through 4. I think 5 really sobered him up even more.
Yeah. There was some BJ evolution in season 5, but yeah, season 6. I'm not even sure it's the
Yeah,
same
6,
guy.
it's like a whole different person.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're just going to keep calling him Booth John because if we call him anything else, it gets confusing. So,
Yes.
for the purposes of, and if you're looking at patron transcripts, it's the unknown entity. So, a few different names for this guy, but basically, this is what Booth John said to open this chapter. The Dollmaker, a title that evokes many feelings, perhaps even hope. Hope in such a desolate place, however, can be one's undoing. The white scar, an unknown curiosity, may pique this Dollmaker's interest. You keep it hidden. More secrets. What have you risked? And
What the fuck, Booth John? What the fuck?
that really struck fear into the hearts of many patrons. And for better or worse, I think it did influence this vote.
And another note is that Booth John is not to be trusted. Like, we know that, sometimes he's gonna rag on us for one thing, or he's gonna, like, we think we're making the right choice, and then he comes out with this shit, or he, like, threatens us, but it's not actually that bad. So maybe
Yeah,
he's just trying to spook us.
he's definitely the one that pushed us closer to choices in certain chapters. His influence has definitely caused us to make certain decisions that we maybe might not have otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's really the game of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the fun of it, right?
We know not to trust Booth John, and yet we can't
And
help
yet.
but let him influence us in some way.
And really, that is the result of being active. I really think that it is something that only patrons who are really active and alive in the Discord, especially, or even just the Patreon comments sometimes, but not
Hmm.
often. I think it's just a side effect of thinking a lot about a choice that
Yeah.
I think most people make very quickly and then they put it down.
Yeah.
So it's really, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it affects anything, but for us it does feel like a
Yeah.
make or break sometimes, and we
Yeah.
do let it influence us. So all of that being said, terrifying to have somebody go, what have you risked, in that like
Yeah.
really somber scary
God.
voice.
Yeah, Fen in the chat says he is the DM's voice meant to make you paranoid. I do what he does to my players.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've always gotten
absolutely.
DM vibes from Booth
Absolutely.
John.
Yeah. Well, Queen, what was your carrot this week?
My carrot was actually the concept of this doll maker, if that's who's even in the cottage. We don't know that that's who's in the cabin, right? But we're
Yeah.
assuming, it would be the most logical conclusion to assume right now.
Yeah.
The narrative is led us to believe this, and so I'm going to try and just accept that that's what it will be.
Talk about paranoid.
I love the concept of a powerful entity displaying their power in some like kind of premeditated setup way. It gives me the vibes of when you're in a
Hmm.
video game and you start to notice and pick up on like the fact that there's a save point right before this door probably means
Right.
there's a boss battle inside,
Yeah.
or like even smaller things when you notice the atmosphere in a video game or a movie, when things start changing in the
Hmm.
scenery and things start getting sharper, or you notice that there are pieces of skeletons laying around. Like, this is meant to very intentionally evoke fear and be a warning. And I really like that concept. And I don't feel like we ever get enough of it in Malevolent, because
Hmm.
up until now, there's not been a villain that wants to plot that way. It's either a
Right.
monster or it's somebody with too grand a design. I do feel like maybe
Yeah.
we could have gotten something like that with Larson if we
Hmm.
had chosen to go meet up with him instead of following the Vizier.
So worth it.
Never
So
forget, Larson was sitting there waiting for us to come find
worth
him,
it.
and we didn't show up.
There's some Danny art, Danny doodles of Larson sitting there waiting, just like everything's set up, but just left on red. It's very
Left
funny.
on red. Yeah, and that's one of the first images that comes to mind when I think about like that section of
Yeah.
Malevolent where we're like at the order. So I really liked the displays of power that we were
Yeah.
seeing, and the scarecrow concept being like a warning specifically to humans.
Yeah, yeah, I thought that was really cool too. And yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because it's so true that a lot of the horror or the enemies in Malevolent are attacking Arthur
Yeah.
before there's any kind of like real setup. I mean, like I guess in the Hag's Cave, like there was plenty of scenery to take in
Yeah.
to set the vibe, but it wasn't like this. And having this
No.
play out like this, I'm more and more excited to finally meet the doll maker and see what that character's like.
Yeah, because I think part of the allure behind this concept of displaying your power ahead of time, like preventatively almost, is first of all the level of intelligence. Because
Yes.
I'm always excited to get antagonists that have a level of intelligence that goes beyond just defending their area or
Sure.
like protecting something,
Or like
or
harvesting something.
yeah. And
Right.
even the witch, like, yes, there was a lot of setup and atmospheric horror that contributed to like, oh, this is somebody you don't want to fuck with and something creepy is going on. But I would say that it was way more defensive than the doll maker, who like
Hmm.
isn't gonna attack you because you haven't done anything yet. But
We assume.
yeah, but it's very clear that they're sending a message, and it's a very
Yes.
deliberate, malicious, targeted message about what's going to happen if you fuck around. And
Yeah.
that kind of message doesn't get sent a lot in Malevolent in a way that excites me just like this. So I was very
Right.
excited about that. Also, just a very tiny mini super cut in half baby carrot.
A little
The
baby
music
carrot.
and sound effects when they were realizing the scarecrows were people, I know we've heard that a lot in Malevolent. Like, that's a
Uh-huh.
very typical horror sting type sound, but it really resonated here, I think, with the
Mm-hmm.
amount of silence and weight that it carried. And it just stood out really beautifully to me. And I
Yeah.
am dying to know what instruments those are or what, like,
Mm-hmm.
sound effects those are, because they sound so creepy, so
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely added to it because I think all of us listening were like, oh God, there's scarecrows in the field of hair. How fucking bad. We know that the scarecrows are going to be fucking horrific. So I think adding the sound effects and the music really like amped it up because we knew we were in for a like disgusting description.
Rose says that the sounds are it's something hitting piano strings. That
Oh,
makes
yeah,
so
yeah,
much
yeah.
sense and is
Yeah.
also horrifically thematically appropriate.
Yeah, I love like weird prepared piano bullshit. I'm a big fan of like Aphex Twin's Drux album, which sounds so eerie because he like places items on the piano strings, and so when you
Mm-hmm.
play it, they like resonate weird. It's
Mm,
very cool. It's very cool.
wow. Wow.
Rose knows what I'm talking about. Okay. So, what was your stick this week?
My stick is in all caps, and it just is the amount of time it keeps taking John to notice very important things is so anxiety inducing. First the lantern crabs, and now the sign. Like, the way that John clips in the last few fucking seconds of the chapter to be like, oh, by the way, there's a
Oh,
sign.
wait. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, if you had cut that chapter off just a few seconds earlier, we would have been so fucked.
Yeah.
There's just, oh my god, the tension that is still left in my body after hearing him read the sign, and then like the fact that he took so long to figure out that they're like to mention these giant lantern crabs earlier in the season. I'm like, John, sweetie, lead with the important shit. Lead
Hey, hey,
like
hey, okay, you're not wrong about the giant lantern crabs. Definitely an oversight not to mention those a little bit earlier. But with the sign, don't imagine it's like huge. Like you have to be on the threshold
but
to
it's
see the sign.
the threshold. Sorry. I got goosebumps. Um
Threshold mention.
um no, but okay, but like Milk, he can read. He can absolutely read. And I would argue, in fact,
John can read better than Arthur right now, okay?
yeah, yeah.
Arthur
So
can't do the reading.
here's the thing. If I were in this situation as John and I was peeping out these windows to my surroundings and I looked into this field of hair with this cottage or cabin and like I had to pick something to start with, it would be the only sign of the English fucking language we've seen in a while beyond
Okay,
the word John Doe on the tombstone.
that's a fair point. You know what? You got something there.
I just think my man is scaring the shit out of me with what he's not gonna notice in time.
Hey, the dark world is a big place. Like Luna says, maybe it was a really small sign.
That's the thing. We don't know. This shit could be spray painted on the side of the house as big as the wall for all we know.
No, I
Like,
think he mentions that it's like I think he mentions that the letters are large, but not that the sign is large.
I have the transcript right now. I'm going to look it up cuz I want to know if there's really a way to tell how big this sign is.
Milk sends an ominous message in the chat. Milk says, I would read better than you if I took your eyes ball control. Oh, okay.
John says, there's a sign above the door carved into a piece of white wood. It's written in extravagant handwriting with long curls after each letter, and it looks burned into the wood. It says, Fiends knock, friends enter. And so it just says it's carved into a piece of white wood. It does not say how big that piece of white wood is. And it
But it
also
fits
says it's
above the
written
door.
extravagant. You know what? This is actually a detail I keep missing.
Hmm.
Extravagant handwriting with long curls after each letter. It's very, very deliberate. This
Yeah.
isn't a sign that was made like by something else or someone else, because I think
Yeah.
somebody in the poll chat had tried to say maybe something
Oh,
else
maybe
put
somebody else
this on the
posted it
door.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But no, this is
No.
clearly a sign from whoever is inside.
Yeah. Interesting.
I also want to mention briefly that, yes, this chapter says friends and fiends, and it's
Yes.
very easy to get those two things mixed up when you type it out in text. It's even kind of easy to hear it wrong.
Yeah.
So I have been occasionally saying friend and foe, not because I think foe and fiend are the same, but because it's just a lot easier to tell what I'm saying. So if I slip
Yes.
up and I say foe instead of fiend, I just want everyone to know right now, I know what the real word is. I'm getting ahead of the tweets, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, the people calling you out, the call out posts. Queen doesn't even know what she's talking about. She called it foe, not fiend. It's not the same thing.
All right, shall we get into the poll?
Let's talk about it.
So this week we have fiend with 42% versus friend with 58%, with the total number of votes being 385.
So that is 162 votes for fiend and 223 votes for friend.
Yes. So, as these numbers of total votes climb, obviously the gap we have to bridge to flip a vote gets larger.
Right.
However, we have seen these numbers change drastically from day zero.
Yes. Yes. It was very, very heavily weighted towards friend on day zero.
Yes, I think it was like an 80% lead or something like that.
Yeah.
It was very heavily in favor of friend. And then I personally flipped within like a few hours, I think.
Yeah.
What are you voting, Vol?
Well, I have flipped multiple times over the course of this week without telling anyone because I don't want to get mixed up in your flip campaigns unless it's my flip campaign, and then I'm really, really, really passionate and obnoxious about it. But but I keep going back and forth because I think that the concept of following, okay, it's all about following the rules. It is about either we follow the rules that the doll maker has set out and enter with intention to be friendly, or we follow the rule that is always knock. Do you want to explain always knock?
I will just briefly say I'm voting fiend. I originally started it out as a very strong proponent for friend.
Yeah.
That being said, the always knock rule, so that comes from a commentary track, part 7, where we hear Harlan talk about the choice to ring versus knock with the lighthouse keeper, I believe. Basically, what he says is he literally says the words always knock.
Yeah.
And he mentions in the commentary that this is a rule that came from his Call of Cthulhu campaigns, and it's something that's referenced again in season 4 when Arthur is talking to Daniel right before the butcher comes in.
Yes.
And he says, that's why you can hear Daniel in the background with Arthur say, that's why I thought it was strange that you rang.
Yes.
Because he told him to knock. So this is a rule that Harlan has had in place for a while, and people are hinging some arguments on it.
I have the quote here. Harlan said, always knock. This is a theme in all of my works. Never ring, always knock. But some people don't know that yet. They don't listen. I put the clues in.
And to be fair, there's two sides to this argument, and I can see both. This is not why I'm voting fiend. Just for everyone's record, like, just so I'm on voice recording saying it, this is not my main argument. It's a great piece of evidence for those who like to lean on these things, but I am voting very, very of my own volition down a different path.
Do you want to explain what your main motivation is?
My main motivation really comes down to the simplicity of the action Arthur is going to take, where if he knocks, he is at the mercy of reacting to whatever the doll maker okay, let me step back. So yes. Essentially, in a lot of votes, people have boiled it down to active versus passive, or active versus reactive. People have talked a lot about, walking into danger openly versus maybe getting the first leap, like getting the jump on somebody.
Yeah.
Um, and down that path, I think you can definitely you can boil down most votes to that, really, if you really water it down. My opinion on this is that I would much rather have Arthur knock from the outside and not be inside the house already when
Mm-hmm.
we receive whatever reaction the dollmaker is going to have, positive or negative, rather
Yeah.
than having him open the door and go inside and then receive whatever the dollmaker's reaction is going to be, positive or
Mm-hmm.
negative. For me, it's literally as simple as, do I want him inside the house when the dollmaker is present, or do I want him
Mm-hmm.
to stay outside the house? And right now, I
Okay.
personally think it would be more advantageous for him to be on the outside.
Okay, but consider this. What about the trapdoor that is under Arthur's feet right now that the
Got
dollmaker
it.
could just pull
Mm-hmm.
as
Right.
soon as he knocks?
Mm-hmm. The trapdoor. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, we've all seen it. The trapdoor.
The trapdoor. John didn't describe it. You were just complaining about that. He just hasn't described it yet. So my vote is currently on Fiend, but I would still, but I think in my heart, it's my vote is Friend.
Okay. Do you want to explain why?
The problem is that like, I don't really, I don't really have much more of an explanation than it's like being pulled in two directions about which kind of rules I want to follow. But I thought you made a really good point countering the always knock like line of thinking. When you were still voting for Friend, you said that this is not a ring or knock option. This is a knock or enter option, which is a completely different thing. And I latched onto that, and I still believe that, even if you don't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll detail that a little bit more. I have been saying that I don't know if the rule would apply in the same situation, because in the previous instances it's been ring versus knock. This is not ring versus knock. This is enter versus knock. And I mean, a ring and a knock are essentially the same thing. They send a signal that you're outside waiting, you want to enter. Whereas entering is just taking the action that you would otherwise be waiting permission to get. So I'm not sure if the always knock rule really applies to this, but there have been other arguments of people saying no, it says always. That means always. And Harlan doesn't say always knock if it's ring. He just says always knock. So I don't know. It could really go either way, which is partially why I don't want to base my evidence for voting this way on the commentary, because first of all, that commentary was made years ago. I don't know, maybe he forgot. I doubt it. But second of all,
There's no way he forgot. There's no way he forgot.
you can really warp that argument to fit either way you vote. I think it's very reasonable.
Also, Luna was throwing shade at you earlier. They said, "I don't know, Queen. Someone once said on Autopsy that something you have to look up from a very small piece of patron non-public lore probably wouldn't be a factor in decisions." I wonder who said that.
But you know what? Unlike that piece that we were discussing, ring versus knock does come up multiple times in Malevolent without you having to listen to the commentaries. So there is a way you could infer it's a rule. So that's what I would argue. Okay, shall we listen to some voices?
Let's do.
There are many in my head.
Hey there, my name is Ajaqs. My pronouns are she, her. And this vote is real simple. Knock if fiend, open if friend. We want to be seen as a friend, so we should open the door. Easy peasy. No need to overthink it.
2 hours later.
Hey. So, I was bribed to vote for fiend instead of friend. But now I'm kind of starting to believe it. Like, what kind of dark world person would just knock on the door or read a sign instead of just going straight into a safe looking house? And what if the doll maker set up a code with their real friends? Like, do the opposite of the sign, or I don't know. What if both options lead to traps? I don't know. But now I'm kind of thinking that Fiend might be safer. I've kind of convinced myself of it. So, in any case, go flip.
Thank you, Ajax, for your submission because, yeah, that was exactly
Yeah.
me. I came into poll chat. You can go back, read how loud and brassy and confident I was
Queen has
about, like,
two
we
posts in slow poll, and I think they're only a few hours apart, and they are so steadfastly confident in completely opposite directions. It's very funny. I'm pretty sure I took notes on both of your slow poll comments. Yeah.
Look, I contain multiples. I am a Gemini, and I'm sorry. What I meant was multitudes, but I had an inside joke with a friend group where somebody accidentally said multiples instead of multitudes,
Oh,
and so now that just comes out of me.
okay.
Still valid, still pretty
Yeah.
much works though. Anyway, I just think I was so strong and steadfast and loud and confident about how, like, we're overthinking this. We're gonna follow the instructions. I follow instructions. I don't see why we would want to declare ourselves an enemy. And like, I fully gunned at like 100 miles an hour for declaring ourselves a friend and entering. And then Fish, it's really all
Yes,
Fish's fault.
as it often
because
is.
Fish came in and he was like really, really against this specific
Yes.
stance, and he was like going back and forth, and I felt bad because he really wasn't it was very much like a fish swimming upstream. He really wasn't getting anywhere with trying to convince people because it was so early in the poll and people were very determined to stick to their guns, as they usually are in the first few hours. I think we all kind of act on our impulses and then we have time to overthink.
Right.
So Fish was basically, we were talking and I was like, if you can convince me why it's a good idea, I think I gave him a very specific point that I wanted him to counter, that I would flip.
Yeah.
Like, I'll totally
Yeah.
hear you out. It's just that right now, what would possibly stop me from listening to instructions that explicitly tell me the answer? And he made the really good point about, like, the action being taken. And
Right.
that got my gears turning, and now I am
Yeah.
firmly on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, I was back reading poll chat and I saw that interaction. Fish laid out his argument and you were like, oh, okay. No, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm flipping. I was like, what? Wow. Wow. But I feel where Ajax is coming from, because every time that I flipped to the other side, I felt like there were all these really good reasons for it, but then I would flip again and be like, no, but these are also really good reasons. So it's been a fun but tricky vote.
It's very flippable. Shall we listen to another voice?
Yes, let's do.
Hi, Autopsy, Rosesofenvy here, and I have many thoughts and feelings about the music this chapter. We got 2 new piano themes, but unfortunately I cannot talk about it without it being a 5-minute, 6-minute memo, and I don't want to subject y'all to that. Just know, eventually you'll hear from me, but not for this week. I am, however, going to give my opinion on the vote, which I haven't done in a while, because I've been kind of on the majority side, but this week I'm not. So first of all, I stand by us hiding that scar. I think that it's a good idea. I think we need to have something up our sleeve that we can negotiate with if needed. It's my 2 cents. For the vote, I am Team Knock, and call me a rule follower, but if the rules always knock, then we should always knock. But I will say, one of my first thoughts was, what if they're not home? If we just go barging in there is, this is grackly, but they could pop up behind us, they could walk in, be like, oh my gosh, stranger in home, trying to, murder, but in the dark world, I don't know how that works. I think it would be a better idea for us to knock, announce our presence, kind of come out with all our cards on the table, quote unquote, just so there's a little less suspicion. We're already hiding something. Let's try to minimize the things we're hiding by coming right out and announcing our presence.
Thanks for your submission, Rose. It's always great to hear from you.
When are we going to have Rose on for season 6 music talk? We got to do that.
Think we're gonna have to do an actual full episode that releases alongside our weekly episode, where we just sit down for an hour and talk with Rose about all of the
That would
music.
be cool.
Because I was just saying, like, there's too much we gotta talk about.
Yeah, but I was also thinking that maybe if there's a good no vote week in the near future, if Rose would be
For sure.
amenable to that, because it's always really fun. And there's been
Yes.
such an interesting like shift in the type of music and type of sound used in season 6, and I'd really like to hear more from Rose about that.
Me too. I'm really glad that when I was talking about the discordant sounds in this chapter that Rose was in the channel to tell me it was piano strings, because I would
Yeah,
have never been able
yeah,
to figure that out.
yeah. But I think that, Rose, I appreciate you sharing your grackle about being worried that the dollmaker may not be home and might be upset that somebody just waltzed into their home. But honestly, I think that you are voting to knock because of your sense of Southern hospitality and, politeness. That's Rose says
I
absolutely,
love
yeah.
that.
Very funny. Yeah, I think that honestly, like part of this vote also comes down to what a person's sensibilities are about like
Yeah.
social etiquette, and I that's been very interesting, an interesting wrinkle to add to the discussion.
Agreed. And I also think it's interesting to see who is voting how and how that stacks up to their previous votes, because people have definitely been talking about how the last vote could impact this
Hmm.
vote. And some people think it was a huge mistake to choose to hide the scar. I still don't think that it was. And I also
I
think,
no, I still stand by
yeah,
that.
and I
Yeah.
also think that it's very, I don't see these two votes as so deeply interconnected in that way. I think it's too early to tell if that was quote unquote a
Although
mistake.
I will say that the combination of Booth John saying, "What have you risked?" and Arthur like mentioning that
Fuck Booth
it's like
John.
trickery to hide the scar, but also probably a wise idea to like, hold that back. I was like, why do you think that's trickery? You're literally just keeping your sleeves rolled down. Like I don't
That's see, and that's maybe this is my like my brain and the way it's thinking. I can't understand how it's secretive to keep your
I don't
sleeve
know.
rolled down. I just don't get it, because that like Arthur exposing his scar is has to be
Right.
intentional, or else it wouldn't ever be revealed in the
Right.
first place. He's no longer
Yes.
naked. We're not
Correct.
like putting a bandage over it. We are literally wearing clothes. And so like I'm very much of the mind that I don't it to me it just doesn't work out in my brain that this is
No.
sneaky or deception or lying or anything.
No,
And
I just thought it was interesting that Arthur made that comment. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, buddy.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Like Rose just says, lying by omission. How
Right,
would they
right.
know? Yeah. Okay, shall we listen to another voice?
Let's do.
Hey everyone, Autumn again, she, her. This vote week is pretty one-sided, but I still wanted to try and lay out some of my reasonings, even if it is for the winning side. My gut instinct is to just walk in, present ourselves as an ally, and the dollmaker can decide if we're a friend or not. It's always better to start off on friendly footing, even if it may be presumptuous. That's better than hostile connotations the alternative suggests. It'd be foolish to knock on the door and declare that I'm your enemy when you enter the domain of something we've repeatedly been told is powerful. The dollmaker's house is said to be skillfully built, its descriptions being reminiscent of cottages found in fairy tales. These stories are created in order to impress upon children the basic rules of society through cautionary tales. Don't go wandering through the woods at night, be respectful of your betters. We must follow these rules laid out for us on the dollmaker's sign, as it would be rude not to, and impoliteness is a death sentence in these tales. The land is also littered with scarecrows. Who do you think they could have been? It's all a test, I feel. Those who weren't able to read the sign and knock aren't the sort of customers that the dollmaker wants, because creatures of such little awareness would likely have nothing to offer them. We need to show the dollmaker that we're intelligent enough to comprehend what is being asked of us, and thus at the very least may have something to offer them, so we don't get turned into one of those scarecrows. Anyway, those are just my current thoughts. Have a good autopsy.
Thank you, Autumn, for your submission. Love
I
hearing
think
from
that
you.
Autumn made me flip back to friend again after listening to
Oh my
that
God.
that submission earlier when I was making when I was preparing for autopsy. That's why I think I walked in thinking, yeah, I think I'm still like I'm still clicked on fiend, but I think friend is what's right in my heart. It's because Autumn mentioned fairy tales as cautionary tales and like that kind of
Which you're very good at
shut
discarding when you
up. It
don't
was
want to
one
fucking deal
time,
with them.
okay?
Uh-huh.
But I think that reminded me that it's more important to pay attention to the signage and the sort of like fairy tale rules going on here. So
Yeah,
it
is it?
is
Until
until
it
until
doesn't
it's not.
serve you anymore. Fucking, you can't be all gung-ho about fairy tale rules and then discard them. You can't use a thing that you're gonna abandon in the next
I
vote.
can too. I
Can't do
can
it.
too. Because you know what? This isn't a fairy tale genre. This is a horror genre. So fairy tale rules apply in some ways and they get subverted or discarded in other ways, okay? Slate in the chat says fairy tales are horror. Yes, that is true. That is true.
I think you just really want to vote friend. I think you're
I
looking for
do.
reasons not to vote fiend.
I feel
But you know that fiend is the right option.
I don't know that, and I feel really I
You
feel
do,
really anxious.
which is why you're trying to convince yourself to vote friend, and it's not fucking working.
No, voting fiend really stresses me out because I don't want to come at the dollmaker antagonistically, even if Arthur isn't trying to be antagonistic. Like, what the fuck does the dollmaker do with fiends? Like, what is their response going to be?
That's the thing. We don't know what they do with friends either. We're going by very human interpretations of these words and concepts and actions. We are not in a place that is friendly to humans or even known, really. We're trying to assimilate in a world that is nothing like anything we've ever encountered before, and we genuinely do not know what friend and fiend mean to this thing.
Very true.
And so, like, if we're really gonna be that nitpicky about, like, oh, well, we don't want to come in with the wrong intentions, we don't even know what the intentions are. We're interpreting them based on our understanding of what these words mean in our world. It's like going to another country where you don't speak their language and just hoping that what you say is right.
I'm changing my vote to friend.
Oh my fucking God. We're listening to another voice so I don't yell at you.
This is WandererFehn's autopsy cut for chapter 273, she-they pronouns.
Knock, knock. Who's there? The dollmaker, that's who. One does not simply enter a home without being invited inside. To do so otherwise is terribly rude, and runs the risk of assuming a relationship that is false. Friend? Fast way to become food. Foe. I want to be your friend. Friend? In the dark world? I think not. Who puts such signs on their door anyways? Clearly someone who expects dark world literacy, which seems to be a rarity. Most dark world denizens seem more slam through door first, not knock. Perhaps there is a pitfall trap on the other side of the door. There would go our multi-chapter. Arthur does not fall into a hole streak. It would be a terrible shame. Risk of hole? Like holy water? Vampires do not approve. Support vampires. Vote fiend. Wahahaha.
Stunning. A+. No notes. Thank you, Fenn.
Fenn, I hate to admit, I was like, what is this accent? Why the accent? And it took me literally until the end to remember, oh, vampires. Right. That's the emoji for Fiend this week.
Good God. First of all, the theater kid energy, unmatched. Beautiful.
Unparalleled.
Sparkling. Second of all, like, yeah, I have to say, if you want to really talk about, oh, I'm going by human interpretations of rules and I'm going to interpret friend and fiend to mean the human versions of those words.
Yeah.
How rude is it to just walk in?
I know.
How fucking rude is it to walk in?
I know.
You should be fucking knocking. If you care so much about making sure we make the right impression,
okay, but
then you shouldn't want to just walk in.
But Fenn makes the point that like by being able to read the sign, it should be able to inform you on how you should approach this interaction. and that usually like dangerous things like mindless creatures or people who are totally their minds are gone because of the dark world, they would just like burst in. I think that is incorrect. I think that they would run into the door like a knock. So if you enter peacefully, then you must have read the sign.
I don't agree. I think I think that's giving a lot of you're putting a lot of weight behind what a knock sounds like versus a human a rat wearing a human skin throwing themselves at the door. Like I that's really what we have to go on so far.
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
so far we have the rats wearing human skin, we have the rat catcher, we have the mourners, who we have the little guy that was farming
Oh yeah,
the
yeah. Farming
the
little
thing doing
guy.
the thing.
Yep.
And then we have, I think, the weird caterpillar or the centipede thing that was wrapped around the tower.
Yes.
And and we have Yorick. And so far, and so I think based on the number of the number of creatures and the type of creatures, I'm not confident in saying that like this sign is a litmus test, which is actually what I argued for when I was on Friend's side. I think I specifically said the sign acts like a litmus test. If you can read it, then you'll do the right thing. And
Right.
that's what the doll maker's counting on. I don't think that anymore because I don't think it matters that much. Like, quite frankly, I think that is way too much effort to go through. If you don't already recognize that you are in someone else's territory based on the, I don't know, beaten up ass scarecrows that are sitting around outside.
Yeah.
Like, what is it gonna take, really?
Yeah, but I would argue, I mean, this is another like one of those like nitpicky splitting hair things that people have been arguing about is the intention of making the sign. And so I don't know if we should debate about the intention of making the sign, just how we respond to it.
Let's listen to another voice.
Hey, it's Slate, they, them, she, her. I'm voting Fiend and using this voice note as a way to publicly get back on my bullshit and shamelessly shill for the shamer tier. Say that 3 times fast. A while back, I lost it extensively about a shamer tier piece of information. Suffice it to say, I have many feelings about Arthur and respectability and the pincushion mourners. Go bump up to shamer and join me, please. But I believe that this directly relates to the chapter. When we met the mourners, many of us suspected that they were associated with the dollmaker for pincushion and sewing reasons. The dollmakers uphold a twisted version of respectability. They're dressed appropriately, they're veiled, silent, aligned in rows. It's all proper behavior for a funeral, but their makeup is hastily, messily applied, and they have monstrous features. Like everything else in the dark world, the mourners take something we expect to know, also like a farmhouse or a field of crops, and twist it into something wrong. And I want to play out the idea of the mourners being associated with the dollmaker. If they are, the sign above the door gets put into new light. It also is a twisted version of human social etiquette. The apparent deliberateness that has gone into the dollmaker's home suggests that the dollmaker is independent, purposeful, and perhaps even a little playful. I'm not sure if the dollmaker is deliberately twisting human etiquette, or operating on a dark world or even dollmaker-specific version of etiquette, or just fucking around with visitors just to fuck around with visitors. I kind of hope it's the last one. But if the mourners and the dollmaker are related, what we do know is that the dollmaker has an interest in propriety and social decisions. I'm voting Fiend for a bunch of reasons, like because I want to put the ball in the dollmaker's court, and because we literally just voted to hide the scar, and hiding something doesn't seem very friendly. But I am also voting Fiend because I hope that the dollmaker sees us categorize ourselves as fiends and delights in it, in a sort of twisted, social, why would I want a friend, this is the dark world way.
Thank you, Slate. You are so eloquent, and it is such a treat hearing from you.
I'm changing my vote back to Fiend.
Fuck yes. Fuck yes. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Thank you, Slate. Love you, Slate. Slate, I love you.
Slate, that was such a good argument and so interesting. And I love how you hint at the idea that the dollmaker is a little bit playful, and also that they would prefer a fiend over a friend. Like, who the fuck is friends in the dark world? I think that is a really good argument.
Slate, I do love what you mentioned, even though we can't talk about shamer tier rewards. It is well known that the Shamer tier reward right now going forward is Arthur's journal, where you get to hear Arthur journal. That's pretty much literally exactly what it sounds like. And they have been worth their weight in fucking gold.
Yeah.
It is so worth, beyond worth it.
Yeah, Arthur's journals are really cool. Like super, super awesome. But also, the previous Shamer reward was a personalized thank you letter from a character of your choice. And those are also a delight. I think there's like 200 of them now.
Yeah.
And they're all very short, but once you get the Shamer tier, you get access to those too. And some of them are real tear jerkers, some of them are really silly. So that adds on to the worth of the Shamer tier, I think.
Yes, and along the lines of what Slate was saying, there are so many wonderful, beautiful analysis by Slate and many other patrons when Arthur's journals do drop at the first of the month, and they really analyze and go over some of the themes and the emotions, and it's great content beyond just what Harlan gives us. It's a great active little chat to hang out in and talk about what we hear. Along the lines of what Slate mentioned about warping and twisting expectations and respectability and all of that, we've talked a lot and seen a lot of examples of the Dark World just kind of imitating what it's been given. It's kind of just regurgitating these warped impressions of the world that it's been fed.
Right.
And I really love the idea of things. I hope it's a creature and not a person, but that's not this vote. That's not this chapter to talk about. I really like the idea of the Dollmaker being further representative of playing with what is respectability and how people can struggle to follow this etiquette or this ideal version that they project onto the world, and the truth, this like warped and fucked up truth, which you're hiding behind all of these politics that people and society have you guarded behind. And I love the idea that this might be symbolic of a greater message like that. And I thought that was really insightful and a great reflection on the themes that we've been seeing.
Yeah, and also just I'm curious to know if the mourners are connected with the Dollmaker.
Yes, I would too. I think that's an interesting connection I never made. Maybe everything's connected to the Dollmaker.
I can't wait to find out.
Those rats were using human skin suits. Maybe the Dollmaker made the skin suits. Maybe it's a whole thing.
Interesting.
I don't know. It looks like it's about that time to end our show. So, I will leave everybody with where I'm still voting Fiend. Vol, what are you voting?
I am currently locked in on Fiend.
Hell fucking yeah!
I'll be really curious to see.
Slate.
I'll be really curious to see if there's a successful flip over the weekend. We've still got it is Friday night right now, so still got Saturday and possibly Sunday to flip.
We can do this. We can absolutely fucking do this, guys. Flip, flip, flip. Pull out your bribes. Pull out your best arguments. Get in chat. Get in the comments and get in slow
get
poll
in the comments.
and throw your best shot in there. I really want to see a flip in season 6. Get in the comments, as Brennan Lee Mulligan would say.
Yes.
All right, gang.
That's it for us.
Until next time, everybody, the horrors persist.
But so do we.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, of course, to Harlan Guthrie, the sole creator of Malevolent. Without his labor of love for a story he wants to tell, we wouldn't be here. To join the live recording, submit your own message, get in touch with me, and more, visit linktree/Malevolent Autopsy. The official Invictus Discord server is open to the public and includes a channel just for Malevolent Autopsy fans. We also have our own private, patrons-only channel. Finally, thank you to Mizra, Nikki, Vol Control, and everyone who has helped create and maintain Malevolent Autopsy. These friends are also volunteers who donate time and energy to help put together this love letter to Malevolent.